Are you ready to get a little help with your content and marketing? After all, the more you're able to outsource the pieces that you don't enjoy or maybe that don't require you as the business owner to actually do, the more time you're going to have left over for the parts of your business you do enjoy or the parts of your business that really do require you in order to grow and move the business forward. In this video, I'm teaching you my outsourcing ways and breaking it down to exactly what to focus on delegating and outsourcing for your content marketing, depending on what stage of business you're in. So make sure to watch this video. Welcome back to my channel. My name is I'm a content strategist helping you create more productive, purposeful, and yes, profitable content. So if that sounds like something that's right up your alley, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below this video and hit the notification bell on so that you can be notified every time I drop a new video every single Monday. I am addicted, #addicted to outsourcing because it allows me to stay in my genius zone more and more. So content and marketing is one of those areas in your business where people tend to start wanting to outsource first. So they see the potential in spending more time on marketing, but they also see the limitations to the time they actually have available for it. I love this area of outsourcing, obviously, because there are a ton of workflows that you can put into place to help you outsource so that you can be more efficient and effective with your content. So this is also where I get a ton of questions. People have a lot of issues when it comes to outsourcing their content. They think that it's going to be hard to find someone who is going to do it as well as they can. But I'm here to tell you that with the right systems and by focusing on the areas of outsourcing, depending on your level of business, what stage of business you're in, that outsourcing your content and marketing is possible and a very, very smart business move. So just to get things really crystal clear here, I want to go over these phases of business. And this is not a hard rule. It's really going to depend on how fast you've grown in your business. Are you pulled in direction doing a million things? Like, are you working full time? Do you have a family? Because if you are pulled in those other directions, you may be longer at these stages, or you might blow right past them really quickly. So I kind of think of business stage as there's kind of like three basic ways to break it down. So number one is beginner. And that is really like that 6 months to 2 years. I consider that first 6 months like our training wheels where we are just figuring everything out ourselves and there's no shortcut to that 0 to 6 month point. But then we get into that beginner phase, really where that 6 months to 2 years, we're still figuring things out in terms of our strategy and systems. We're not sure exactly what is going to work for us in terms of growing your business. We're not even sure what we like the best at this point. So at this stage, I consider this kind of the beginner phase. Then we have the intermediate phase. So this is anywhere from 1.5 to even 5 years. So this can be a really long phase. You can stay here for a long time. You're in the groove, you're having more opportunities, you have a lot more clarity in terms of what you do like, what you do enjoy, what your voice is, who your customer is, because you have spent so much time growing your business and so much time talking to them. You've likely done a lot of your marketing yourself at this point, so you have a really good sense of what this is in your business, who you're talking to. Then we have advanced, which is anywhere past 3 years. So like I said, there's a bit of an overlap here. So intermediate 1.5 to 5 years. Then we have that advanced 3+ years. It really depends on how fast you go. But the advanced is when you are having, you're hiring a few people. You're starting to really outsource and delegate. You're really clear on what your boundaries are. As a CEO, you have no issue saying no to a lot of things. You know what is your lane and you're sticking to it. That doesn't mean you're not growing, but you're really clear on what your opportunities are and what are your not opportunities, because every no we say opens up a yes for something that we really want. So in terms of, I want to focus on each phase here. So I want to talk about our beginner phase. So where I tend to recommend that people start when they are in that 6 months to 2 years, start with a VA to help with some of your marketing legwork. So there is a ton of posting your blog posts, getting out your email, scheduling your social media, updating graphics in Canva, that you don't necessarily need to be the one to do. It's time consuming. It's like this little tedious kind of you don't really need to figure it. So it doesn't need to be you doing it. It's not like you're making a ton of decisions doing that work, but it is important. The show won't run without it. So that can be a great phase that can be a great place to start when you're in this beginner phase and you're like feeling really stretched, and that could be an area that can start to give you some more ease and out of that hustle mode when it comes to your content marketing when you're in that beginner phase. So the other thing that I recommend here is that you document every single step of your marketing process as much as you can, or if you're hiring a VA to help and depending on their skill set, having them document it. This way, if your VA moves on, or if you are, wanting to hire a VA and you have been doing it for all this time, you have everything documented. So I like to think of this as cloning yourself, as Amber McHugh would say. She teaches a principle called How to Clone Yourself, and it's all about like, if it was you doing it, like what are all those steps so that people can just follow this and it's as good as if you had done it yourself. So that's where we want to get to with that documentation and documenting those workflows out. The second thing is that I want you to hire out for pieces of your system that you're not so comfortable with. So if you really struggle with graphics, or you really struggle with content upgrades, hire an expert to help you figure out those parts of the system. If you are getting in on podcasts, or starting a podcast, or starting a YouTube channel, there's a lot of systems legwork. So I think you could do really well to either sign up for a course, hire someone one-on-one to help you set up that system, set up that strategy, so that you can then go and take it to your VA to help you do it. So it just depends on your own skill set. So if there's something in your business that you want to do marketing wise that you're not so comfortable with, bring in an expert to get it figured out, but then you can turn that around and outsource that to a VA. Once the structure and the framework is in there, you don't necessarily need to be figuring it out each time, but you might need to bring someone in to help you get that figured out. So I want to give you a sample workflow here that you might follow if you're in this beginner phase and you've hired a VA. So I want you to start with, you create that core piece of content. So that is step one of your workflow. You create that blog post or that video or that podcast. Then you're handing it over with the title, the final title of the blog post, to your VA. They're maybe going into Canva and updating some templates that you have there, changing out the background image. They are scheduling the blog post and the newsletter and your social media. So they're scheduling all of that weekly content or bi-weekly content, depending on how frequently you're putting out regular content. So we want to make sure that for your blog post process, for your newsletter process, for your social media process, you have documented each step of that. So what is every single little step you take to get a blog post up? Every single little step you take to get a newsletter up? Every single little step you take to schedule your social media. So then the workflow is then after that. So that is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. After everything is scheduled by your VA, you do a final sweep of approval just to make sure that everything is up to your standards, but don't fix anything. So if you see something that you don't like, this is a trap that I've fallen into many a times and have been retraining myself. I'm still not the best at it, but sometimes, like if something just needs a little tweaking or something just needs fixing or it's not right, I think, I can just fix this and it's not going to take much time. It'll take me longer to tell somebody what I need to have done. So a better way to do this is use this as a teachable moment for your VA so that they're not repeating this mistake over and over again, but give them an opportunity to fix it. So make sure that so step 1 of this sample workflow is you create the core piece of content. They create the image in Canva. They go and schedule and format the blog post, newsletter, and social. And then step 4, you are reviewing and approving or sending back for them to go and fix some of those errors. All right, so what about when you get to that intermediate phase of business? So what should intermediate business owners be concerned with, and how can they start delegating and outsourcing more effectively with their content marketing? So at this stage in business, what I typically find is that you have had a virtual assistant for quite a while now. So you have those basics covered. You have crossed over from that beginner phase where you're having them really own those more tech pieces, those more like legwork tasks of your content marketing. So you're ready for more. You're ready to go even bigger. You're starting to realize that maybe you need more support on the copy and design phase. And so this is why at this stage, I think in addition to your virtual assistant, you might also consider bringing in a copywriter and a designer. So paramount is finding a copywriter who gets your voice. So it can be quite tricky to find the right fit here. Designer's a little simpler, especially if you have some templates that they're working within or a brand that they're working within. But it can be, if you are besides just those simple Canva templates, you might bring on a designer if you're maybe creating content upgrades or creating a lot of freebies or creating a lot of presentations. So it can be really handy to bring in someone who specializes in design. But with the copywriter, there is so much writing when it comes to business that at this phase, when you are wanting to put out even more, it can be really helpful to get a copywriter in. So my biggest tips for moving from that beginner business outsourcing to that intermediate business outsourcing are: number one, hire a strategist. So one of the best things you can do is hire a savvy marketing strategist to help you identify opportunities. This doesn't necessarily need to be a position that you keep on long term, and there are different specialties as well. So if your focus is PR, or your focus is sales funnels, or your focus is just like a really rockin' sales system, or like launch plan for a new offer, or a brand specialist. So you bring in those specialists to help you create the strategy so that you can give that to your team to actually execute. So make sure that the strategy is on point so that your team, your copywriter, your designer, your virtual assistant know what they have to do so that to support that strategy. That can be another really great ask for that strategist. Like, how do I communicate this? What does the members of my team need to do? The second thing that I want you to focus on is be obsessed with your sales system. Be obsessed with your sales funnel. At this point, you've been in business for a while. You know that in order to be successful, your content has to be a revenue driver. We're not just blogging for the sake of blogging. We are really thinking about, like, how much visibility does that bring me? How much traffic does that bring to my website? How many opt-ins do I get from that piece of content? And then what happens when they get to the end of the funnel? How many people are purchasing? So you really have the numbers to support it. So at this phase, I want you to go even deeper with that sales funnel and like become totally obsessed with it, because that is your sales system, your automated sales system that basically gives a purpose to all of the content marketing you're doing. I think that it is completely a waste of time to focus on growing on social media or focus on growing in anything for that matter, whether it's Facebook groups or doing a bunch of podcasts or doing a bunch of collaborations or, you know, doing all this stuff until you have a sales system in place. That is really what gives a purpose to our visibility activities. We want to make sure that sales system, that sales funnel is set up behind the scenes to take care of that traffic that you are driving. So at this phase of business, I want you to become obsessed with that sales system, that sales funnel. So at this stage, I want to give you a sample workflow for this one. So in this case, you will, same as before, write that blog post or do that podcast interview or do that video. Then I want you to upload it to Google Drive. At this stage in business, you are still the chief content creator. Even though we're bringing in a copywriter, you are still creating that core piece of content because they are your ideas. Then the second step of this sample workflow is to assign it to your copywriter to edit the blog post and create the social media copy and the newsletter blurb. So at the same time as they're editing your blog post, it's always good to get a second set of eyes. You don't, like, I can tell you so many horror stories of words that have gotten through because we didn't have a second set of eyes on there. You want them to edit it and take the opportunity while they're there to write that promo copy. Then number 3, once you have that copy done, you want to send it to your designer to design the images, the content upgrades to go along with that blog post. Finally, you approve everything, then it goes to your VA to handle all of the scheduling. So in this case, the main piece, you're responsible for approvals and you're responsible for that core piece of content. Then at the end of the month, I want your virtual assistant to go and collect the data from that sales system and from your marketing and send you a report. So this is something that you're going to want to document out. So you might do it yourself for the first few times and create a system around it so that your team can go and do it. But then I want you to, once they send you that report at the start of the month for the previous month, take a few hours to really digest that and use it to create your next strategy. And then rinse and repeat using the data you sent for your VA to improve performance the next month. So this is a potential sample workflow once you're at this stage of business and how to kind of work that delegation and outsourcing. All right, advanced business owners, this section is for you. What can you do to outsource and delegate your content and marketing even more? At this stage, you've been at this game a while. You are truly ready to step into that CEO role and have someone else handle these things. You're still the subject matter expert, but you don't need to be the one taking those ideas and turning them into stellar pieces of content. We still need your ideas, but you are maybe not the one creating the blog post, if it is video, you'll be the one there. So at this stage in business, you might be looking for a chief marketing operator, a CMO for short, or a chief content marketing integrator, someone who kind of is your air traffic control person for your marketing strategy. So my two biggest tips for advancing from the intermediate stage of outsourcing to the advanced stage are two things. Number one, I want you to come up with a method of capturing and communicating your subject matter expertise. So there's a tool that we use in my business all the time in our sales funnel agency and with our chief marketing clients called our content interview process. So this is a way where we tell our clients to just treat our conversation as a podcast interview. We send them some questions ahead of time, and then we just have a conversation. We send that to be transcribed. And by doing that, we manage to capture the CEO's voice and what they want to say, and we're able to turn it into a piece of content that sounds like them and is all based around their ideas. At this stage in business, your marketing is a huge revenue driver. So you know that if you stop showing up, the leads might dry up. So we want to be really, really obsessed with those numbers and really obsessed with putting in systems in place so that you can continue to show up and we minimize the amount of time that is actually going to put on your plate because you have enough to do at this point. So one of the videos I did recently, and I'll put a link below to this, is my sales funnel audit calculator. So that can be a great tool if you're going to be obsessed with these numbers. Let's put in the numbers and how that sales system is performing so that we can focus on what to fix. At this stage in business, you aren't fixing massive things in your business. You're actually focused more on those small numbers and what you can do to improve them so that it results in big payoff down the road. So you might be focusing on more leads, or how do I make my opt-in page convert a more number of those leads into like opt-ins or signing up for my freebie, and what does that mean later on when they're turning into sales or turning into console calls, depending on your sales system. So a sample workflow for the advanced business owner, and this is going to be very, very similar to my own one. So I'm going to have another video in a couple of weeks here all about like my quarterly content batching workflow, but this is kind of a preview of it. It's a little modified here. So number one, you want to come up with your monthly marketing strategy or your quarterly marketing strategy, depending on how far in advance you're working. At this stage in business, you're likely working pretty far in advance because you're anticipating and preparing for launches that are maybe months down the road. You're starting to prime seeds now, starting to prep things so that your team can actually help you rather than you getting stuck holding the bag. Like I've been there way too many times where I just didn't leave enough time for people to actually help me, so they couldn't. Second step here is you're going to create content interviews or have content interviews with your copywriter or your chief marketing integrator on the topics identified in the editorial calendar in order to get that raw content needed for those final pieces of content. Number three, you're going to assign those blog posts to a writer. So have them go and write those blog posts. Then number four, you're going to assign the accompanying content. So they're going to do the newsletter, the social media copy, the content upgrades, get those all ready. Then editing and revisions and approval from VA, CMO, or editor, depending on who is on your team. Then you're going to assign it. Step 6 is assign it to your designer to go and design those content upgrades and those images. 7, again, that's going to be approved by you, the CEO, or your CMO. 8, you're going to go and actually schedule everything. So schedule the blog posts, social media, and newsletters. 9 is measurements and performance reports, so you want to do those on at least a monthly basis. Your sales system's probably looking at them weekly at this point. And then 10, rinse and repeat. So I will mention, because we have an agency, we have a lot of clients in this capacity that we help with. So they are doing content interviews with us, and then we are turning it into a full monthly content bundle and scheduling everything in advance. So this is the workflow that we tend to do for them. So this is a real world, real tested workflow that if you're in the stage of business, you might find really helpful in terms of like how you can model your own after this and take it and tweak it and make it your own. So hopefully this answers a lot of the questions about delegating and outsourcing. I know that people always struggle with what they should outsource first. How fast should they outsource? Do they really need a CMO or an OBM at this point? Who should they hire? And we want to make sure that you are hiring the right team and the right support depending on your level of business. So I hope that this was helpful. If you're ready to start outsourcing, make sure to download my content and marketing delegation cheat sheet below this video and tell me in the comments, what are you most excited to start delegating first? Plus, if you want more videos like this one, click on the next video on your screen and make sure to hit subscribe for new videos like this every single Monday.